So here we are then, welcome along to this week's Racing Postcast, brought to you by the Racing Post, sponsored by Unibet. Sam Hart here as ever on an excellent week of racing. It's York Ebor Festival week, but we're going to be getting stuck into the Saturday action from York, where the highlight is the Ebor Handicap. We also have action from Goodwood, where the Celebration Mile and Prestige Filly Stakes take place down there. But York is the highlight this week. Robbie, I know at the time of recording we've only had one day, but we've seen the magnificent City of Troy run, an exceptional run from Ryan Moore. What do we make of this performance?
Yeah, I'm pretty sold on it now. I wasn't completely. Obviously, the Guineas was a disappointment, and at Sandown, didn't think that form was up to much. But I mean, the clock doesn't lie, and he smashed the track record yesterday, beating See the Stars one. And I think Calandigan, was talking him up before, and I think he's a top class horse, and he actually probably beat him quite snugly in the end. So yeah, I think, for me, probably the best performance we've seen all season.
Absolutely. He looks exceptional, didn't he? James, you've obviously had a good eye on York yesterday. It was an exceptional card all round yesterday. One of the best, flat racing cards we're going to see all year. What did you make of the card yesterday? Were there any standouts for you other than City of Troy?
I thought yesterday was a fantastic day's racing. City of Troy, I think he was the sort of prize that you wanted to take on, wasn't he? But I think the course record is the course record, but the ground always makes such a difference on that. The fact he sort of went out and made all, I think, caught everyone by surprise. I was impressed by him. He's never going to win like Frankel. I don't think he's that sort of horse, but impressive him. Calandigan, completely agree with you. I thought this horse, he was a line through because I thought mile and a half minimum this horse needed. So I thought he ran really well. He was the one I took away from the whole of the day thinking he's one I want to take forward, because I thought that was a monster run. And when he does go back up to a mile and a half, I think he's going to be some prospect. Shame he can't run in the Arc for Connections, because I feel he'd have a hell of a chance in that. But loads of good options for him.
Absolutely. And it's great to have Ed Nicholson back. Brett Williams subbing in for the last couple of weeks, but Ed is back. And Ed, I've just been going through Unibet's website, and what's going to be quite key here is City of Troy's prices for a range of races anti-post. I've got them here. You've got 8-1 available for the Arc, very unlikely to be going there. 13-8 for the Irish Champion Stakes. We're looking at 7-2 for the Kipco Champion Stakes, but Calandigan is 7-2 as well. I think he's a great bet in that. And then we've got 7-2 also for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Do we think we could go Irish Champion Stakes, Breeders' Cup Classic? How do you think this could play out?
Yeah, I think that's the way we were thinking. I'm actually in Gibraltar this week, and that's where our racing traders work from. And I watched the race with our traders, which was really interesting because we had it in for a packet, as you would expect. Drifted to 6-4, which we laid quite extensively, and then backed into 5-4. And obviously, Aidan O'Brien doing so well. It was not the greatest result for the bookies, but it was quite interesting watching it with the traders when he went and won it. But straight after, we were discussing where do you think it will go. We always thought the Irish Champion Stakes is the most likely next step. But then ultimately, the Breeders' Cup is being talked about since he started his 3-year-old campaign, isn't it? So I think those are the two most likely races. And then we were looking at those in behind where they're going to go. We've spoken about the second, but Ghostwriter, where would you go with him? I mean, he's run a couple of good races now. I don't think they want to take the winner on again in the Irish Champion. So where do you go with that? So it was quite interesting talking to the traders straight after the race, getting insight into how we price up the anti-post market within minutes, giving our prices to Brett, who then gives them to the press and to the ITV team. So yeah, it's a matter of minutes. We obviously have a discussion before what we think we'll do, and then once we've seen the race, we then put that into action. So it was great fun as much as anything else.
Absolutely, yeah, fascinating to hear. But yeah, you can go to Unibet and see all those anti-post prices. And like I say, Calandigan for the Kipco Champion Stakes. I think if he turns up there, he's going to be a great bet on some softer ground as well, which you may appreciate. Let's get into the racing then for Saturday. Like I say, we've got 5 races from York and 2 from Goodwood. We start off at York in the 150, which is the Strensall Stakes, a Group 3 over a mile and 1 furlong. Unibet's price at the time of recording have Ali Anabi and See the Fire as joint favourites at 5-2. Empjar is 11-2. Task Force 15-2. Phantom Flight is 9-1. Looking at double figures about the rest of the field here. Robbie, I'll start with you here because I actually thought See the Fire has realistically on the last run has the best form in the race. Second behind Opera Singer in the Nassau Stakes. What did we make of this race? And do we think See the Fire is a worthy joint favourite here?
Yeah, definitely. She certainly should be. I think she's joint favourite with possibly the wrong horse. I think Al Yanabi is plenty short enough. Didn't like what I saw from him at all at Newbury in the Stevenson Stakes. think Sea the Fire should be outright favourite. Obviously, got that Group 1 form of Opera Singer. Romwell and the Eclipse has obviously worked out nicely. And also the Coronation Stakes worked out well. But the horse I'm more interested in at bigger prices, Nth Jar. I think he's a decent each-way wager. He obviously won the John Smith's Cup here a couple of starts back impressively off a big weight. And he proved he's definitely a group horse at Goodwood. I know he didn't win the opening handicap of the first day of the glorious meeting, but he actually ran the fastest finishing speed at the entire meeting, 115%. He come from miles back in that. He was beaten by a neck in the end by a much more prominently ridden horse. The other horses in the first four were all had much better trips. And I just thought that's a horse that suggests he's a group performer. He's gone up in the weight since then. He's right up to this class for me. And I struggled to see him out the three, providing we get no fewer than 8 runners go to post and there's 9 runners. So I think he's a knock in each way, but
absolutely, yeah. Nth Jar, second string. Well, it looks like the second string with Jim Crowley taking the Ali and Arby ride, but Jack Mitchell's aboard. Nth Jar here, who's second to take Hart in that Chesterfield Cup handicap, like Robbie said, at Goodwood. Looks a great each way bet if we do get 8+ runners. James Stevens, Stu, who did you like in this?
Yeah, okay. Like Robbie, I want to take on the top 2 here. And the one I landed on was Task Force. Really good horse in his 2-year-old days. Looked like he could be a real top class performer. Things didn't go well for him at the start of this season, beaten well in the Guineas and again at Royal Ascot. But last time at Goodwood was a lot more encouraging. Tried with first-time tongue tie. I'm not sure if that made a difference or the fact it was a significantly weaker race. Ran really well, had to weave through horses. Bit of an unlucky run, as often you get there. But it was encouraging. He's going back the right way. And if he can bring his best form, he's definitely good enough to win at group race level. So, really good each way bet here. And I definitely want to take on the top 2 in the market.
Okay, yeah, Task Force for James Stevens then. And Ed Nicholson, it's a race where Unibet are going to have their brand new offer. You've been running it for a few weeks now, but best industry price from 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. Just tell us a little bit more on that.
On Saturday, go to the Unibet page and whatever the best price in the industry is on the selection you back will match from 9 a.m. It's been running, as you say, for a few weeks now, and it's been lots of people are taking advantage of it. It's a really good offer. There's plenty of these sort of offers in the marketplace, which is great for punters. And this is our variation. So do bear that in mind if you do fancy a horse. I thought the top 2 were worth going against as well. I've gone for a big price horse in Haunted Dream, 16-1. Obviously up in grade, having won at Goodwood. But I was trying to work out why he's shown such improved form last time out, because he'd only won 1 race up to then, now 2 from 22. But he wore tongue tie for the first time, which he keeps today. And they actually said that they think the quicker ground definitely suited. So he's due to get quicker ground again. He wears a tongue tie again. James Doyle's in the plate. I just thought 16-1 or thereabouts is quite a big price in what is an open race. So yeah, Haunted Dream to continue the improvement and take a step up in class, or 2 steps up in class here.
Okay, Haunted Dream then, big price there. Plenty of each way price as well there in the opening race from York on Saturday. Remember, yeah, top industry price, Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Do head to unibet.co.uk for all the terms and conditions on that one there. We move on to 225. This is the first of the big handicaps we're covering, which is the Melrose handicap over 1 mile and 6 furlongs, where the Equator and Reaching High and Tactician are 6-1 joint favourites. Dramatic Stars 13-2. Wild Waves is 7-1. Imperial Sovereign 9-1. Looking at 10-1 about Champagne Prince. 11-1 Too Bossy for us. 12-1 and bigger the rest in this. Ed, I'll come back to you on this. What have we got in here offers wise, and who do you like?
Well, this is the kind of the biggest race offer we have on Saturday. We're offering money back second, third as cash. Terms and conditions applied, but that's our big kind of offer we have each week. But we're also offering an extra place. And this is a race I love. It's known as the 3-year-old Ebor. And I first became aware of this race, and this is going to show my age, in 1990, when I backed a horse called Great Marquess to win. Sir Henry Cecil trained it. Got beaten ahead. That's why I remember it. 10-1. Ended up winning the Doncaster Cup, did Great Marquess. And the horse that beat him, Shambo, ended up winning 2 Ormond Stakes and a Geoffrey Freer. So it's a race where you get horses that are going to be group performers in years to come. I think that's fair to say. William Haggis has targeted this race for that sort of horse in the past. And William Haggis' form in this race is 13 runners, 3 winners and 4 placed. The The last two Haggis horses are very similar profile to his Dramatic Star. And Dramatic Star is going to be my selection in this race, favourite, but I think it'd be a good deal shorter come the day than 7-1 we've got at the moment. Hamish, we all know Hamish is a Group performer. Good, very good horse now, Group 1 performer, really. He won this race on his handicap debut for William Haggis off a rating of 92. Another horse, Solcombe, won it a couple of years ago. It was his first try at 1 mile 6. And he was sold to race in Australia to Chris Waller, and he won a group race in Australia. And Dramatic Star's got the same sort of appeal. He's only rated 87. He's bred to enjoy the distance. His mother obviously was very good over 1 mile 6. And those of you thinking, hang on, I remember this horse. It was the horse that we all tipped up to win at Haydock when it hit a bit of false ground on that day at Haydock, and he was pulled up. So it is his second run in a handicap, but it's actually really his first race in a handicap, because that one he was pulled up. Although it's got a naught against his name, it really was it really was a pulled up, not a naught. And can race off a rating of 87 here. I'd be amazed if this horse is not good enough to win off 87. And Haggis has got a really good record in this race. He loves this meeting. His horses are in good form. I can see it going off much shorter than 7-1. I just thought Dramatic Star, in what looks on paper to be an open race, I just think he's a potentially well handicapped horse.
Yeah, Tom Marquand, I think on that last run at Haydock, where everything went wrong, obviously, like I said, took a full step and there was issues with the bend there at Haydock. I think Tom Marquand just said, right, let's take it easy and we'll have this horse ready for another day. And this seems like that other day, and that mark of 87. Yeah, like we say, on the last time we previewed that race at Haydock, we did say this horse could be a group horse, and I still believe that. So if you think that's the case, 87, the mark is ridiculous in this Melrose, and Ed said it could go off shorter. James, what did we make of this Melrose handicap?
Yeah, interesting race. Completely can see the case on Dramatic Star, but for me, that's a little bit too short, just given how competitive a race it is. And I think there's a horse in the race with a bit of a similar profile, and that's Champagne Prince, who is hard to judge because A, we don't know what he's going to be like over this trip, and B, he's still very lightly raced. As a 2-year-old, he won 2 out of 2 and was kicked off this season in the Craven. Didn't run any race at all. Was beaten again over a mile. But last time at the Shergar Cup meeting, he was tried up half a mile, mile and a half, ran a really good second in a race, which is probably going to work out to be quite good. Houston was third, ran really well at Newbury, and the winner going remote is going to run in the Ebor, about 16-1. So clearly isn't without a chance. This horse looked like he needed further on pedigree. It would suggest a mile 6 is exactly what he wants. I definitely think he's got a chance at a price each way. Quick ground looks to be ideal, so I hope they avoid the rain for his chances. And to be honest, I think he's a great each way bet because he's another one which, just like Dramatic Star, could be a lot better. You'd expect he's better than a mark of 86, and he's almost double the odds. So I'm happy to take him on each way.
There we go. Yeah, another big price each way selection there from James Stevens. I think the interesting one's Robbie Wilders in here with regards to, big trainers and names. Going to be Aidan O'Brien's runners in the Melrose and obviously in the Ebor itself. He's got the Equator in here and he'll have Queenstown in the Ebor. Ryan Moore not taking the ride. Some punters might be looking at going, where is Ryan Moore? He's actually at the Curragh on Saturday riding some exceptional 2-year-olds. He's got Henri Matisse in the Group 2 race there. He's got Bedtime Story in the Fillies Group 2 2-year-old race. And he's got a fascinating debutant and a maiden there called Officer, sired by Debawi and the Dam's Hydrangea. That would be a fascinating one. So Ryan Moore's obviously going there for a good book of rides. But what do we make of the Equator in here? Short price, but is that just the Aidan O'Brien factor?
Yeah, surely. I mean, it takes a very good horse to win at Melrose off top weight, and the Equator has not really done anything to suggest that he's up to winning a race like this for me off his mark. I mean, he looks high enough in the weights, really. I think I totally agree with James about Champagne Prince. He was the one that I was drawn to at the odds. I think double figures is pretty generous, to be honest. He was unbeaten in the on the all weather over the winter. Ran in the Craven. Obviously wasn't right that day over a trip that was way too sharp. Returned with a slightly underwhelming performance in a handicap at Newmarket from a few months off, but then showed an awful lot more at Ascot, the Shergar Cup up 4 furlongs in trip. Unlucky in running that day. I thought he was the moral winner. If he did win that and he's only gone up £3, you're thinking, well, why can't he go in again? Really, I know it's a deeper race, but he's very, very much unexposed, and he's got the pedigree to suggest he'll be absolutely fine with 1 mile 6. So I think he'll give you an outstanding run for your money. Double figure odds each way, Champagne Prince.
There you go, Champagne Prince. Yeah, plenty of appeal there. And you're going to get those extra plays with Unibet and also money back if second or third. Offers galore in the Melrose from Unibet. Moving on to the 3 o'clock, which is the first of the group events that we're going to be covering, or first of the group 2 events we're going to be covering on this week's show. It's the City of York Stakes over 7 furlongs, where Kinross has won this race for the last 2 years. We'll get onto his chance in a minute, but Audience is topping the market with Unibet, the Lennox Stakes winner at 13-8. Kinross is 5-2. Lake Forest is 130. Should have been a ring is 15-2. Art Power is 9-1, and Big Jump to 33-1 and bigger with regards to the rest of them. Robbie Wilders, to you here. Audience, the winner of the Lennox Stakes, obviously a front-running ride. Did this horse just get away with it? Are we thinking this horse is the best over this trip now, or is Kinross going to come back and prove what he can do?
Yeah, I don't see it. I think Audience is the right favourite and he'll probably win. He was only narrowly beaten by Kinross last year in this, but we know he's a much better operator this season. I mean, he's obviously won the lock-ins really impressively, and he's followed up in the Lennox. You could argue he got a slightly easy lead in the Lennox, but he still won it by miles. He's a Group 1 winner without a penalty. I think Kinross is slightly on the decline for me, whereas Audience, he's properly operating at his peak. So I don't see too much depth to this, and if anything, I'm slightly surprised he's not a shade shorter Audience. So yeah, I think he'll take all the beating.
Okay, Audience, the one to beat for Robbie Wilders. James Stevens, Robbie's just mentioned that Kinross, 7-year-old, potentially on the decline at the moment, but I know he won this on good to firm ground last year, but are we just looking at a horse now that needs his ideal conditions? Potentially that softer going would help him?
Possibly. I think that's a fair point to make. He's holding his form well. I mean, I've watched that Lennox back, and it's quite a muddling race because they go off so hard, and really it's impressive that Audience is the only one to really stick with the leader, Art Power, and then beat him in a record time. So I mean, it's a very, very good piece of form, and Kinross has run respectably well. Best of the rest of those other than the other two. So a decent enough run. I don't think you can sort of draw a line for him and say he's finished at all. So interesting to see. Maybe he does need ideal conditions now. He's possibly not as good as he once was, but he's a very good horse. I'm intrigued here on Lake Forest, the 3-year-old taking on the older horses, who for me looks like a fast run 7 furlongs is absolutely what he wants, especially on quick ground. Really, really good run in the Hackwood last time. Looked to be outpaced in the early stage, but finished better than anything else, really. Finished really, really well. He won at this meeting last year in the Gimcrack. That was a really smart performance. Agree that Audience is definitely on to beat, but I'd fancy Lake Forest to give him a real run for his money. And also, I know Audience won the lock-in and it was a bit of a surprise that day, but there was still an element of surprise when he won the Lennox in that fashion as well. So I just wonder how this race will pan out, whether he will be sort of allowed to dictate. He's a lot more sort of a serious a threat this time. So I do just wonder, I mean, Art Power's obviously going to go forward. He's probably going to stick behind him, but Breege is in there as well. So there's plenty of pace in the race. And I just wonder whether this is going to be the time where something really comes back, because so far in his 2 races this year, he's got in front of them, he's got past him. I think that Lake Forest would be the one that could be doing that, but we'll see.
Yeah, Lake Forest, the 3-year-old in the field, getting £5 off majority of these. I think Breege is the only one as the filly that won't be getting £5 off, but gets a couple pound off Breege. But yeah, definitely the improver in the field, Lake Forest. And like James said, been running solid races this season already. Ed Nicholson, you were nodding away when Robbie Wilders was saying Audience could even go off shorter and is definitely the one to beat. Do you agree here?
Yeah, when I was first looking at the race, I saw odds of 9-4 on Audience, and I thought there must be a doubt about him running, because he's well clear on ratings, isn't he? I mean, he's rated 124. The next best is 112, isn't he? And his RPR is higher than everything else, and he's shown his best form in his last race, probably, maybe the lock-ins, but and that race last time, I remember ITV going through the sectionals. It was a very slow second furlong, I think, and that's where that's where he won his race, and then he went obviously and ran really quickly. Interesting enough, I noticed that the top speed rating for him isn't anywhere near the others. I didn't really understand. Obviously, you can only get a top speed figure when you put in a good run, I would have thought. So I was interested that he's got a lower top speed record rating than the others in the race. But I just thought 9-4 when I saw it was a massive price. He's now 13-8 with us. This was the plan. He doesn't have a penalty. I mean, he's got to win, hasn't he? The only thing is what James said. If they do take each other on, and he's a horse, viewers will know as much as we do that he's been taken away from the other horses, so he doesn't see them. So in the lockage, he went up his own way. I mean, Rab was very keen to take him away from the other pace setter, wasn't he, at Goodwood, and go. So that would be the only concern if a horse roughs him up and takes him on. Would that put him off his stride? I don't know. It might well do, and they might go too quickly, and that's a good case put forward by James for Lake Forest. So that would be quite interesting. But I just thought of the prices. Certainly the 9-4, 15-8. It's now 13-8. I think he'll go off short of the 30-8. Surely, I just think he's the best horse in the race. As long as the tactics don't get to him and he's beaten, in the race, he's the best horse in the race.
Okay. There we go, audience. Yeah, both Robbie and Ed agreeing this horse could go off shorter. Let us know down in the comments who you fancy in the City of York this week. On to the big handicap, which is the 335, the Ebor handicap over mile 6 furlongs, class 2 event. Highlight of the entire meeting. Queenstown is currently the 13-2 favourite. Again, Aidan O'Brien, James Doyle here. Hip Hop de Loire is 15-2. Epic Poet is 15-2. Nakib is 8-1. Fairbanks 17-2. Magical Zoe is 9-1. Burdett Road 11-1. Relentless Voyager and My Mate Mozzie 14-1. 16-1. And bigger the rest. James Stevens, you're the man that I've got to come to first. This Hip Hop de Loire. Willie Mullins, who won the race last year with Absurd. I've just gone through and looked at this horse's form. Coming over with runs at Hop Garden, Dortmund, then going to Willie Mullins. Running in a maiden hurdle at Galway with Paul Town on board, finishing second, turns up here with Colin Keane on board. What do we make of this? That's
a real nice start. Thanks for that, Sam. I study my Polish and German form very, very closely. So I'm like you. I have absolutely no idea how to judge this horse. He's also 7 years old, so he's not exactly a young buck, but I was definitely drawn to him, and I'll be interested what his price does. I think there's already been a little bit of money for him. I think people have really clocked. Oh, look, Willie Mullins has got one in here. Let's not let that go unbacked. Good run at Galway, lost to a stablemate, and Paul Townend was on him, which is interesting enough. So that suggests that there's obviously some sort of belief in him. He wouldn't be betting on my money, but I wouldn't be surprised if he wins. As I said, I have zero clue about how good his form stacks up. But the one I was drawn to was one at a big price here each way. It's a really competitive race, as you'd expect for an Ebor, and it's worth just trying to find that bit of value. And that's Chillingham, who is a horse who I've liked for some time, and he's one of those frustrating horses. That he drew my eye in I think it's the Cop Horse Handicap at Royal Ascot last June, where he was given a bit of a nightmare run round, but ran really well to finish fourth. That was a race which Vauban won, and Absurd also ran really well in before he went and won the Ebor last season. This horse hasn't quite kicked on from then. He's now ended up a pound lower, but last time out they put cheap pieces on him for the first time, and it was the first time in a long time where he didn't race too keen. He ran well behind Crystal Delight, and that form looks fairly solid. That was over 1.5 miles at York. This is mile 6. I think the step up in trip would help him. He was only beaten half a length last time he was tried on this trip. And I know Connections have had an eye on the Ebor. I actually looked through an old report where they said, we're working back from the Ebor, and forgot that I was the one that written it. Yeah, that was interesting. A lot of his form is pretty promising. He's on a mark he can win off, and those cheap pieces are back on, and if he can actually race a bit more sensibly, he's definitely got a chance at a big price.
Yeah, Chillingham 22-1 with Unibet, and there'll definitely be extra place in this race. We'll get to Ed Nicholson in a second. Robbie, I just want to come to you again. We've got Aidan O'Brien at the top of the market here, and if you're one that just looks at bare form and you just look at his last 2 runs and you see second to Kyprios, then you're thinking, blimey, this horse has got a right chance and should go and win this race. But again, is this horse just slightly shorter than it should be, just based on this Aidan O'Brien factor?
Yeah, I don't really know. I think he's got a better chance winning than the Equator does in the Melrose. But I don't know. I'm not sure about him. I must admit, though, there's probably not as strong an Ebor as we're used to. It's normally quite a compressed handicap. Forza Auto's got in. He's only rated 84. But that also makes you wonder, could something low in the weights that's less exposed come into the fray? I'm not sure. The way I was looking was, thought Crystal Delight was quite interesting on the first show, and his form ties in with James's selection, Chillingham. But he beat him quite convincingly here a couple of starts back. He's obviously got the course form. He's got the pedigree to stay an extra 2 furlongs. He's off quite a big mark, but I think he's definitely a group performer. You can draw a line for his last run, the Fred Archer Stakes. He was taken on for the lead with Kamari. They both went out way too hard. Essentially finished almost pulled up. But he has been aimed at this race. I think he's a sport in each way play around 25s. But tough race, although maybe not as tough as we used to.
Okay, yeah, no, completely agree. And I even heard Ed agree there with regards to it not being as strong Ebor as we used to. I like to look at big prices. I like to look at Yashin in here. I thought this horse has been running first at the start of the season, finished third to Kyprios, then finished third again. Ran a bit of a poor race next time up. That was actually at Newcastle in the Northumberland Plate, but has had wind surgery since. And Jesse Harrington brings him over. She's got a good record actually in this race of having horses that run well. Oshie Nor's taking the ride, and I think this horse, without the pun, could save the day, Yashin. Ed Nicholson, to you then, extra places here for sure. Where's the money been going? Have the traders been saying there's been anything that's popular?
Well, the favourite, Queenstown, has been backed. Again, we've talked about the Aidan O'Brien factor. But Epic Poet was backed. He's kind of tailored off now and is around about 8-1. But that was the one that I was interested in. What I think is a really open Ebor. Totally agree with what's been said before. It doesn't really appeal to me, this race. It used to always appeal to me. I used to love this race. But I love the Melrose more this year. This race has got plenty of old favourites, and we've got some of the hurdlers running in it. You know, I don't suppose they want to be known as jumps trainers, but the jumps trainers have got horses in it as well. Interestingly, Martin Dwyer, we did a piece with Nico de Boinville where we were talking about the difference between jump racing and flat racing, and Martin actually said he always loved riding hurdlers in the long distance staying flat handicap races because they know how to settle, and they actually at the end of the race they've still got something to give. And it's quite interesting over the last few years how many horses have won these long distance staying handicaps on the flat that have come from a hurdling background. So yeah, there'll be plenty that will be backing those horses that have been running over hurdles. Magical Zoe obviously ran at Cheltenham and ran well. But I'm going to go for Epic Poet. It will be his first time over 1 mile 6, but he did make his debut as a 2-year-old at 1 mile 1. And the way he ran in the Duke of Edinburgh over 1 mile 4, you would have said he'd be better for a step up in trip, wouldn't you? When he went past so many horses up the home straight that day, and you can't believe he's going to get as close as he did when you look at the replay. And then he was dropped back in distance for the John Smiths over the course. And again, he came from a mile back. I noted he was almost last with 3 furlongs to go, and he weaved through and came 5th in what is always a very competitive 10.5 furlong handicap. So we know that he probably acts around York. We know that he stays, and with the extra place on offer, he's a type of horse I like to back where there's an extra place or two, because he'll be coming from the back and running on past horses that maybe are trying to go with the pace that are going back. So I have a slight worry that he'll do the similar situation as he's done last twice and not just get there, but 8-10-1 with the extra place. That will be my play. Lots of people like doing 25-33-1 shots with extra places. I like to do the 6-10-1 shots with hopefully you get a run for your money and hopefully get your money back if he doesn't hit the gold zone. So Epic Poet from a stable we all love. We've talked about David O'Meara in the past. He knows how to get a horse ready for a handicap, and I'm just going to think that this Epic Poet will actually be better over 1 mile 6 rather than worse.
Okay, Epic Poet then 15-2 currently with Unibet. Remember those extra places there as well. So yeah, Epic Poet for Ed Nicholson, Chillingham for James Stephens, Crystal Delight for Robbie Wilders, and for what it's worth, I'm going to be with Yashin in the Ebor. Final race on ITV finishes off with a 4:10 6 furlong Constantine handicap class 2 event. Billy Joe is the 13-2 favourite. El Monjed 7-1. Dare to Hope is 8-1. Apollo 1 10-1. Summergand is 10-1. Two Tribes 11-1. 12-1 and bigger the rest. Plenty of competitive handicaps to get stuck into on Saturday, isn't there? I'm not sure who's done more shows actually this flat season, myself or Summergand. Ed, what's the horse in this race? Again, look, we're about 7-1 the field, so it's not an easy race for us to find winners in. Have we got any extra places here?
We have. I haven't got it down as being an extra place race, but check the site on the Saturday because it might be one that we add to it because it does look 13-2 the field like it should be. But funny enough, I was going to say exactly the same to you. I said it should be sponsored by Unibet. This podcast it'll be sponsored by Summergand. You mentioned Summergand more times than we mentioned Unibet. He's such a lovely horse. He won the Unibet Stewards Cup back in the day, and he's once again he kind of hit the place terms in the Great St Wilfrid. He always comes placed. He never wins, does he? I think that's 4 times he's been placed in that race now. And good luck to him. I love the horse, but he won't be my selection. I don't really have a strong fancy here. I'm going to go with Almonjed, who I think is an improving 3-year-old. I missed the wedding with Almonjed. I backed him when he came 3rd at Windsor, and then 2 weeks later he won at Windsor, and I forgot all about him and didn't back him. I put him on my tracker. I thought the way he ran at Windsor, he was one of the few that came from out the back in a slowly run race. And he was back that day as if he was a well-handicapped horse. He's only had 6 runs now. So that was only 4 runs at the time. He looks like a horse that's one step ahead of a handicapper. He's on 91. I think he won off 87, didn't he, last time? So, that would be my selection. But it's a race that I won't be getting involved in myself financially.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. James Stevens, I feel like Summergand is the kind of horse that can turn up on a show like Pointless one day. Name a race that Summergand's won or placed in throughout his career, and it'd be a difficult one to try and find a pointless answer. What did we make of this race?
Yeah, interesting race. The more you look at it, the more confusing it's get. To be honest, there was no strong opinion from me on here, but if it was to get very wet there and the ground sort of turn anywhere back to good, which to be honest, by the sounds of it, it's unlikely. Horse that I've been keeping an eye on for a while is Harry Free for Clive Cox, whose form this season is pretty woeful, to be honest. But last season he ran in a hood, and they've taken it off this season, which I thought was quite interesting. Or the season before, actually. Sorry, he'd had a long break, came back off, I think, almost 2 years, and has been running pretty poorly, but they've never had him back in a hood, which I found quite interesting. So his mark has been going down and down and down, and he's back down to the same mark that he won off at York, 97. So he's definitely handicapped to win. I do just think that the drying ground wouldn't suit him though. So he's definitely a horse I'm keeping an eye out for, but I'd even be surprised if they don't get the rain. But from a sort of other perspective, if it was to stay quick, which I think it would, Al Bashir, some solid form in this, usually runs pretty well in these big handicaps. Wasn't too bad at Goodwood last time, and he'd be the one if they don't get the rain.
Okay, there we go. A couple to look at from James Stevens and Robbie Wilders. I'm so desperate for someone to say that Summergand's got a chance this week. He was 4th in the Great St Wilfrid last week, Robbie. He's still on the same mark. It's going to happen at some stage.
Is it going to happen though?
It is.
It's a lot of finds trouble, doesn't he?
He likes to.
I'll tell you what I think will happen. Billy Joe will eventually land one of these, and he was the way I was looking. I thought he was just desperately unlucky in the Stewards Cup last time. The first 6 home were drawn 28, 27, 4, 24, 26, 20. He was the one in 4, just simply on the wrong side of the track. Just runs his race in these sort of contests, and he's not really going up in the weights at all either. I think he's got to be bang there, providing that stall 15's a good draw, but I have no idea whether it is at the moment. So I think Billy Joe would be my default selection, but I'd be quite happy to sit it out, to be honest.
I think a few people were enough of these competitive handicaps today by the time you get to this one. But like I said, 13-2 the field. It's a difficult race to find the winner in. So let us know down in the comments who you fancy. So there we go. That's York covered. 5 races from York covered. Shortly after this quick Insider adverts, more information on the Race Post Insider. We'll be covering Goodwood. Welcome back to this week's Racing Postcast, brought to you by the Race Post, sponsored by Unibet. Sam Hart, Robbie Wilders, James Stephens, and Unibet's Ed Nicholson spinning you through the weekend action. And if you did see that advert and you want to join the Race Post inside, there is a QR code that you can go back and pause, scan that QR code on your phone, and you'll be able to join our WhatsApp channel. Off to Goodwood now, down to the south coast. I won't be there this weekend, which is a massive shame. I'll be in London. So yeah, my badges at Goodwood won't be being used this week, but I'm looking forward to the action nonetheless. The 205 is the first race that we'll be looking at from Goodwood, which is the Prestige Filly Stakes over 7 furlongs. This is for the 2-year-old fillies. And currently, Unibet have joint favourites in Formal and Tapiti at 130. Royalty Bay's 11-2, Merites 13-2, and Shoulder is 10-1. Miss Fascinator 11-1, 14-1. Bar these. A lot of focus this week. Ed Nicholson's going to be on York, obviously, so it's difficult to try and look down the south coast at Goodwood at some of the races, but they have had some good racing on this weekend in previous years.
Yeah, it's always a good meeting. I think we were asked to sponsor it a few years ago, so I looked into it, and there are always a couple of good races, especially the bank holiday weekend. They normally get a good crowd down there, don't they, as well? So yeah, looking forward to these 2 races in particular. They are very good races. In the past, they've been races that really been worth taking a view on and looking at with future classics even in mind. And this Prestige Filly Stakes is one of those sort of races, Group 3. I've had a walk down memory lane already this podcast with a bet that I had 34 years ago. And I actually remember a horse winning this 30 years ago, Pure Grain for Sir Michael Stout, which is the last time Sir Michael Stout has won this race, but he's won it 4 times in total. And Pure Grain ended up being a really good. In fact, we're doing this on Yorkshire Oaks Day. She won the Yorkshire Oaks. I think she was placed Moonshell in the Oaks, I think, wasn't she? And she also won the Irish Oaks and ran in the Arc. And so she was a great race mare. Not particularly good. She didn't have many foals that did very well. But Sir Michael Stout actually does target a very decent horse in this race when he has one. And Formal looked to me like a very decent filly in the making when she won at Newbury. I was going to say she was the last one to come off the bridle, but she didn't come off the bridle. I mean, she won easily. Jason Watson, I think, rode her that day. I think he did. But he just basically came there and just went past the horse that had previously run really well on debut. And they didn't even resort to the persuader at any stage. One of 3 first-time out winners for Sir Michael Stout this year, first-time 2-year-old winners. A bit of a resurgence in his 2-year-olds this season. And I just thought Formal looked a horse from Cheveley Park to follow. And I thought she'd be much shorter. She's only run once, but she did. It's the style she did it in as much as anything else, which to the eye suggested that she could be a really decent filly. She travelled really well, quickened, and just did everything she needed to do. And Sir Michael puts her straight into a Group 3. So she'll do for me. I think she'll be shorter than 130 as well.
I think she'll definitely be shorter than 130. I'm confident in that. I remember Formal winning actually on the day that Ruling Court ran at Sandown. I remember Twitter went into explosion about Ruling Court. And I watched that race in the evening and watched Formal Run. I went, everyone's gone mad about Ruling Court. But let me tell you, this horse here is proper decent. And I think this price, 130, I think it's a really good price, actually. I can see this horse maybe going off 7-4, 6-4 on the day. James, I mean, it's not easy. Obviously, you've got 2-year-old fillies in here. Not easy to judge too much form. But what did you make of this?
No, I completely agree. When I looked at this race before, I didn't have the prices on and thought this would be 7-4, 6-4 Formal, given she won just like an absolute monster, didn't she? She beat a good field as well. I mean, the third has come out and won since on her next starts. But I think the first 2 home, the Gosden horse was pretty useful as well. Also got an impeccable pedigree as well by Voracious, who was a really good horse, and by Dubois as well. So the pedigree, the way she won, everything suggests she's a really exciting horse. And to be honest, there's not a lot of brilliant form to go on offer here. So at those odds, I'd more than happy to take a chance on her. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm half tempted at that kind of price. The Napa 2-year-old filly, which is a rare thing for me to look to do. Robbie, what did you make of this?
Yeah, something I always do when I open up a race card is I filter the card on top speed. And if the horse coming out top is a prominent racer, then I'm interested in them straight away because, I mean, you guys must know yourselves. When you go out for a run, if you want to record a good time or just put a good performance on, it's hard to do going hard from the front. it's much easier to do if you're in a race. You're picking up the pieces from a pace set by someone else. And I feel with this card, and Tabiti comes out well top on top speed and made her own running on her debut at Newmarket impressively. That was a maiden one last year by Ghostwriter, who we obviously touched upon in the Jobmont earlier in the show. Won that easily, really well bred. I get the case for the stout horse, but I'm just a big fan of horses that can put up good times from the front. And I think this filly must have a pretty high ceiling. So it's Tab T for me.
Tab T for Robbie Wilders then. Yeah, really looking forward to that. I think it could end up to be a really good race, actually. Moving on to the second race we covered from Goodwood and final race, the 240, the Celebration Mile Stakes, obviously over a mile. This is a Group 2 contest with 5 runners going to post. Lead Artist is the 10 to 11 favourite of Unibet, obviously the Thoroughbred Stakes winner from the Qatar Goodwood Festival. Sunny Liston, who was last seen finishing 5th in the Sussex Stakes at 5-2. Poker Face is 13-2. Royal Dress is 7-1. 16-1 outsider is Ice Max. I'll come to you first, Robbie Wilders. Lead Artist, right favourite and the improving horse in here?
Yeah, right favourite, I think. Sunny Liston, we sort of know where we stand with him. Yeah. I mean, it was pretty decent run, to be fair, last time. Sunny Liston, the Sussex Stakes here over course and distance. I know he finished last, but him and Henry Longfellow took each other on in that, didn't they? And probably softened each other up a bit. He's probably got, to be fair, he probably has slightly better form than Lead Artist, but I did think Lead Artist was quite impressive in the Thoroughbred Stakes. I thought that was quite a deep run in. He's got that more lightly raced profile, great pedigree. It's unlikely we've seen his best, and he probably doesn't have too much to find to sort of pass Sunny Liston. So I think I'd go for him. It really does look a 2-horse race. It's slightly disappointing turnout, but at the same time, you can sort of understand it considering it's so close to the city of York. It's always on the same day. It's 2 very similar kind of races. I think it's one Lead Artist will probably pick up.
Yeah, I think so as well. And yeah, you mentioned there Sunny Liston finished last in that Saturday stage. There's only about 5 lengths between a lot of them. They were fairly grouped at the finish, weren't they? James, for you then, Lead Artist is probably going to go and win this.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's the horse that's improving, gets weight from all of these bar Ice Max. Impressive enough at Goodwood. Wasn't sort of the best winner of that race we've seen in years gone by, but won it pretty well. Looks to be improving, and it's interesting. I think there'll be a lot of hopes. I mean, it's been a bit of a dismal year for the Gosdens as we speak before Yorkshire Oaks Day. They could do with a real nice prospect coming through, and Lead Artist is probably about the favourite of those to become a sort of future Group 1 performer of the current crop they've got. So I'm sure it'll be an interesting day down at Goodwood for them.
Absolutely, yeah. Lead Artist, yeah, winner of the Thoroughbred Stakes. I mean, a couple of seasons back, Ed Nicholson Baid won the Thoroughbred Stakes, and we know what he went on to do. What do we make of Lead Artist, and do we think he could turn out to potentially be, the big performer next season in the mile division? Charyn was 3rd in this last year. Look what he's done this season. So, are we looking at a potential decent Group 1 miler for next season?
Yeah, I think so. I think first thing to say, this doesn't really happen that often, but it is a horse that I think we're all going to tip in the same race. So, Lead Artist 11-10. You would expect anyone who's backing favourites should be on this, wouldn't you? 11-10. But he's got the profile as well. Last time out when he won at Goodwood, he did well and then was chased up to lead, and he won his race really well. It was coming back at the end, but as Robbie actually said, it's difficult to kind of leave from a long way out. And I remember reading about Nick Morden, who wrote some books on betting for a living. And he always liked horses that took up the running from 2 furlongs out, because he always thought that if at 2 furlongs, if you lead and you carry on leading from 2 to the finishing line, you've got the other horses making their runs at that time who have been held up. And the horse has got to be able to be pretty decent to keep up a sustained run. And this horse, definitely led further than that, but also quickened up at the 2-3 furlong pole and was just getting tired. He's only run 4 times, and that was his best performance. And if you look at the horses in that race last time out, I think all but one were rated higher than him. So, he certainly improved. He looks like a horse that could be a decent 4-year-old, as you said last year. And yeah, I think you've just got to back him to win over the course and distance. Goodwood's a difficult track, and we know that he enjoys the configuration. So yeah, 11-10. We've all gone for him. It's not rocket science, but Lead Artist to lead all the way.
Yeah, he's the hat-trick horse this week. He's an obvious one, like Ed said, but he is the hat-trick horse, and Lead Artist there to win the Celebration Mile Stakes on Saturday. So 7 races from ITV covered. Do let us know, like I say, in the comments who you fancy this weekend. Shortly after this, though, we're going to be getting our bets elsewhere as well as our best bets for the weekend.
Want betting on the horses to be anything but flat? With an app that impresses every time out. You're on. Want to watch live streaming of races in the UK, Ireland and around the globe? And get a chance to win even bigger with 3 Uniboosts every day on any horses you want. Unibet, you're on.
Welcome back to the final part of this week's Racing Postcast, brought to you by the Racing Post, sponsored by Unibet. You still have Sam Hart, Robbie Wilders, James Stephens and Ed Nicholson here, now giving any other bets for the weekend. Speaking of Ed to Robbie Wilders, he hasn't got any this week, so we'll get his best bet at the end of the show. But James, I'll come to you first. What else is there away from the ITV cameras this week?
Yep, good card on Saturday, and there's a very competitive 5 furlong listed race after the ITV coverage finishes. The one I was drawn to was Magnum Force in that race, who won at Cork just 8 days before running here. Looks like a horse with a bit of a reputation, given he's been sent off pretty much just over odds on debut, finished second, really good run, and then was odds on last week. Really impressive. Looks like a really speedy 2-year-old. This is a bit of a muddling race. A lot of these are pretty mixed profiles and patchy form in there. But Magnum Force, the fact he's turned around so quickly suggests that he's in pretty good shape, and they want to have a quick go at the top level, a good level, because he's also entered at the top level in the middle park. Looks a really perfect horse for this type of race. Quick ground looks spot on for him. And he was the one I looked at. There's a lot of these that I think will go off pretty short just because of runs in better races. And this horse hasn't sort of ran in any of that. He's the unexposed runner in the lineup, but looks pretty good, looks pretty sharp. And he's the one I'll be siding with.
Okay, Magnum Force, Joe Lyons, Colin Keane jocked up there. 4:45 at York, the Julia Graves Rose Stakes listed contest over 5 furlongs. Ed Nicholson, very rare for you to have other selections on the postcast, but you have got some other selections. So let's hear them, and also just reiterate the offers that we have this weekend.
Yeah, I'll be at Windsor on Saturday. It was one of their biggest days of the year. Sarah Cox is playing after racing, which is the reason enough. But on the track, there are 2 really good races. We used to sponsor them actually years gone by, and they're 2 of their biggest races of the season: the August Stakes, which is a listed race, and the Winter Hill Stakes, which is a Group 3. The August Stakes, there's an interesting horse running. I haven't got prices yet. I'll be interested what the odds compilers come up with. It's a difficult race to price up, because the horse I like is a horse I'll be putting my cash on, hopefully, and it's called Cash. Hadn't seen him for a long time. He's been off the track for a season. Last time we saw him, I think he ran in the Queen Anne at Royal Ascot, came 9th. I think that obviously is a Group 1. This is a listed. He hasn't had that much racing. When you look at him, you actually couldn't believe that he's actually a very lightly raced individual. And he was put into kind of group class fairly early on in his career. So time off might actually be quite good for him. Jamie Spencer takes the ride, which is why I was interested, because Jamie Spencer could probably have gone to a number of meetings on Saturday, and he comes here to ride for David Simcock, which he does do, obviously, on plenty of occasions. And he's won this race more times than any other jockey. He's won this race 3 times, Jamie Spencer. And I just thought Cash was a very interesting horse. Fits the profile of the sort of horse that runs in this race as well. They're obviously going for listed, which you would have thought they would have thought this horse would be well up to winning a year ago. I don't know if the horse went wrong. I don't know how far he is in his recovery, but just the profile of the horse and the race that he's running in just really interested to me. So I'll be looking at the market moves anyway. And if it's positive, I'll be backing Cash. And then half an hour later, we've got the Winter Hill Stakes, a Group 3 race. So Michael Stout has farmed this in years gone by. The last 3 years he's won. Passenger won it last year. And that was a great race, actually. He won it by short head. Only 3 or 4 runners, if I remember rightly. He's got a horse in here, Regal Reality, who we all know. He's a bit of an enigmatic sort. He actually holds the course record for this distance because he won it 2 years ago, I think. But I actually can't work out the course record because it was on good to soft ground. But it's down as being the course record. Although I remember Al Qasim winning this race and he's got a faster time. So maybe they looked at the yardage and it's a different 1 mile too. But I reckon it'll be a course record on Saturday. given the good to firm ground, given there's plenty of runners. And I wouldn't put Regal Reality at 18-1 off, but
No.
I'm going to go for my Prospero. I think it's going to be a good weekend for William Haggis. And he ran well at Goodwood when he probably needs a bit further. That was over 1 mile 1. He came back and was coming back at the line. This is over 1 mile 2. He doesn't wear any headgear, which is I hoped he was going to, but it'll be around about 9-4, 5-2, I think. So my Prospero, Kieran Fallon, I just think is a good bet. Haggis form is in top. Sorry, the Haggis team are in top form, and he's a horse that I like going forward. So my Prospero, but also keep an eye out for Regal Reality. It's a big price for a course and distance and course record holder.
Absolutely, completely agree. So a couple there from Windsor, from Ed Nicholson. If you are at Windsor on Saturday and you see Ed, do go over and say hello. Lovely bloke, and he'll have a good chat with you, I'm sure. Right, Jens, let's get into the naps for the weekend then. I'm going to kick things off, actually. I'm going to switch my nap because I've now, after seeing that price, and I said I'd rarely do this, but the 205 at Goodwood, the Prestige Filly Stakes, I'm going to put up 4 more at 100-30. I just think this horse is going to turn out to be a bit of a machine and possibly one of the best 2-year-old fillies we've seen all year, especially this side of the seas over in Ireland. They've got obviously some top class 2-year-old fillies, but I think this horse here could be the best of the British, and 4 more 100-30. Sir Michael Stout likes to win this race and has a good record in this race. I think this is a great bet. So yeah, 4 more for me. James Stephens, to you, please.
Yep, we're going to go for Lake Forest in the City of York, 3 o'clock at York. Just think this race is going to be set up to suit. Really improving horse, and I hope this horse wins so well that City of York becomes a Group 1 next year.
Okay, yeah, exactly. We're all hoping for that. We discussed that on Monday, actually, in the office together. Ed Nicholson, your nap, please.
Dramatic Star, 225 at York, the Melrose Handicap. The 3-year-old Ebor fits the profile for this race. The trainer, William Haggis, has farmed this race in years gone by. 3 wins from the last 19 renewals. He's had 4 places as well. And this horse has only got a rating of 87. I think he's much better than that. And I think he'll end up being a group horse in years come by. So, yeah, Dramatic Star to win the Melrose.
Yeah, Dramatic Star in the Melrose. So far, I'm a very big fan of this multiple. And Robbie Wilders, you're going to finish us off. Who's the nap?
Yes, mate. I'm going to go to the Strensall Stakes, 150 at York, Nth Jar.
Okay, Nth Jar. Yeah, good. I think around sort of 11-2, 6-1 for Robbie Wilders. And that is our multiple there on screen now. You've got 4 selections, and these will be boosted by Unibet at the time of this podcast and YouTube video upload. So head to unibet.co.uk for all of the boost there. We know what Ed's up to this week, and he's seeing Sarah Cox. After the last couple of weeks, I'm surprised Brett Williams isn't singing, because I don't know whether you've seen it, but he's been having a bit of a sing-song at the end of these postcards. Might have to have a word with him, but he'll be on a racecourse performing soon, I'm sure. What are the plans? Just Windsor and anything else on Sunday, Ed?
No, but I'm back at Chepstow on Bank Holiday Monday. I don't know if James would be there. Sometimes see James at Chepstow. No, not this time. Okay.
No.
But that's always a good meeting. It's family fun day. But there's a couple of pony races on before racing where you always... I've actually met some trainers that watch the jockeys to have a jockey in mind for when they become apprentices. Adrian Wintle did it at Bath last week. I found it amazing. They are such good standard, these youngsters, especially nowadays. So, yeah, a couple of pony races and should be good fun.
There you go. So you can say hello to Ed at Windsor on Saturday and Chepstow on Monday if you want. No, James won't be there as much as he'd probably like to be there, but myself and him will be working on Bank Holiday Monday. I'll be producing the front page, and James Stephens will be hosting the front page on Monday. But any plans before that, James Stephens?
I've done my singing at the races with Dizzy Rascal on last week, which was quite the experience. Probably the first and last time I'll see him perform live, but there we are. No, quite one for me, as you say. We're in on Bank Holiday Monday, but yeah, looking forward to York. It's been good to watch it from afar. Really, really good meeting. I have to say, it's lived up to standards, and hopefully it does for the next 3 days as we talk here on Thursday morning.
Yeah,
Sam, I'm not going to let James get away with that. Dizzy Rascal, can I nap you? I once sang with Shaggy. It wasn't me in the Big Breakfast.
Right.
That's better than Brett and you. I reckon.
Can we if we can get the clip of that, we'll see if we're allowed to play that on.
Trust me, I've been trying for 30 years. I can't find it.
Right, okay. So there we go. Yeah, we've still got 3 days left of York at the time of recording, so looking forward to the action. The 3 days left of that. I'm talking about Dizzy Rascal to his biggest fan, Robbie Wilders. What are the plans this weekend for you?
Yes, mate. Not an awful lot on, to be fair. I'll be watching Wolves Chelsea boys in action on Sunday. Apart from that, watching the stuff at York and relaxing. What about yourself, man?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm actually looking forward. I don't know if it starts this weekend, but the Paralympics soon to start. Is it this week?
Yeah,
or is it next week?
28th of. Yeah, we've got 6 days till then.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking forward to
exciting.
that. Yeah, I'm actually, because I'm doing the front page, I'm down all week for York. I'm actually staying in London this weekend. So any recommended things I should do in London as a little bit of a tourist, Robbie, give me a message. So that's it for this week's racing postcast. Big thanks to Robbie Wilders, James Stevens, and Unibet's Ed Nicholson. As always, we'll be back next Thursday for another weekend preview. As always, do like, comment, share, and subscribe. Get those selections down in the comments. Gamble responsibly, and we'll see you again very soon. Thanks for watching.